July 8th, 1983. This is Joe Todd, an interview with Mr. Woodrow Haney. Okay. Mr. Haney, where were you born?
Seminole County, a little place called Red Mount.
Red Mountain.
We're out about, 15, 20 miles northeast of Seminole, up around North Canadian River area.
When's your birthday?
It's October 21st, 1919.
Who was your father?
Willie Haney.
Willie Haney.
Willie Haney.
And who was your mother?
Winey Johnson Haney.
How you spell Winey?
W-I-N-E-Y.
Both your parents from Oklahoma?
Yeah.
I'd like to get some background on your family and the Seminole tribe.
Okay, from what I understand now, of course, a lot of this stuff I'm talking about usually is not from a book, it's what I've picked up information.
Well, that's what we're looking
Yeah,
for.
okay. To begin with, I don't remember the name of the old man, my great-grandfather, which came on a trail of tears. And after they settled in the Haney community, which is Haney community now, and of course, for a long time, there used to be a general store, blacksmith, and a school there. And then there was a little Haney Independent Methodist Church there, and it's still sitting right now. I mean, it's still being used. And so in that community, it become known as Haney Community. But of course, I understand too that Haney name was attached to my family because we didn't have no last name.
Yeah.
And there was enrolling him. And so when they enrolled him, I had a great uncle, which was half white. And so my father was talking about it, said that he had a last name Haney. So they took this Haney name and attached it to this family, and so that's how it come we exist as Haney's now. See?
Okay. What was the name before?
There was no name.
There was no name.
No, there was no last name.
Okay.
Yeah. But I forgot the name of my great-grandfather now, but the only time I look at his records, you know. And, but anyhow, after my great-grandfather came and settled in that area, later in years I was thinking about it, not too long ago, how my father talked about, he was converted Christian already. And he was a member of a Baptist church there, and sometime then I was talking to some of the members that came here, we were sitting around talking, you know. There's a place called Snake Creek Church right there in the Haney community. And somehow I felt like that he must have belonged there. And, but anyhow, also, grandfather, great-grandfather, he had his slaves too when he came here. And I remember Dad telling about that one time one of the young slaves had a baby for an old man. Okay, but the little child, half-breed, went back into the black side when they released him in 1865, somewhere back in there, see. They released him, he went back into the black side. But over a period of time, in years past, after Dad got old, you know, there was a man, Aaron Grayson is his name. He was part of a freedman. And he used to come and see Dad. He was just as black as he can be, but he can talk better native language than anybody I've ever seen. He was a preacher. He could preach both languages, Indian and English both. Yeah. And he sang both ways. And but I understand that he did marry Indian. But of course, since he's dead, I don't know of any of those other descendants of that particular freedman still existing or not. Well, anyway,
Aaron Grayson.
Aaron Grayson, lived around Castle during his time. He had a little church over there. And then my grandfather because my grandmother came into the picture, and after they settled in Oklahoma, which was Indian Territory at the time, and during the Civil War, my grandmother went through that Civil War as a teenager.
What was her name?
Ginny.
Jenny.
Yeah. And most of those names were just Ginny and number, roll numbers, all they had.
Yeah.
And so just like my father, to begin with, of course, later on in his life was known as Willie Haney, W-I-L-L-I-E. But on a roll, it is spelled like W-I-L-L-Y. Wally, 897 or something like that, roll number. And that's the way they were till they received their last name, see. So, but grandmother was known as a medicine woman. And since I was a little child, I'd say I must have been about 4 years old, because I remember riding that horse, riding double with my cousin. And it took me later in years where I had my stirrup, where I had my barefoot in there, It's got two little stripes in the back. And I remember him tying it together so I can use it as a strap, a stirrup. And so I went to the grandmother, and that's where I stayed the rest of my time. Of course, father and mother came and kind of looked in on us. But my grandmother was very old, but it was her place was to help people, because the Indian believe that, as far as medicine goes, the Indian believe there's what you call, some people might call it a witch, to hurt somebody, Every medicine person is supposed to have that knowledge too. But then, of course, some of them specialize in that witching, and the others don't. And so grandmother, like one time, some woman came up there one time, and he said, my husband, some woman took my husband, and I very, very hurt, and I want my husband back. So grandma said, well, it's a long time ago I quit, and I turned Christian. If I'm going to try to get that man back for you, you're going to have to hurt him. And he'll come back to you, but he'll be so hurt. He said sometimes they really get sick. He said, I don't do this anymore. This kind of stuff is out. But he said, I can help you. It'll make you forget it. And so this woman said, okay. Said, I need help. So, of course, it was my place to go get the herbs. I growed up because she taught me all of this, So I went and got herbs and mixed it together and got it all ready for the night. So the woman spent a night with us, her and another woman. Early next morning, every medicine person has a chant, a song. And they have a little tube like a bamboo cane. And they use that, they sing there, and then in that herbs they would blow in there to give her extra power for healing. Okay, that morning we did that, and so she said, come on, bring the medicine. So I took a bucket, and so we all walked down just about daylight, But during those times, those creeks, it was a beautiful stream. It's kind of a shame it's not running anymore. The water's just drying out, But we went down there, and so grandmother instructed her to drink all she can, without throwing up. And just keep drinking and drinking. You just try to get 4 cups of it, 4 large cups. But standing by the water, and when you get ready, he said, throw up in the water. And that water is a strong medicine. Good, clear water will go ahead and clarify you and also take your troubles away. And so that's what she did. She left, and I remember her coming back about 3 or 4 weeks later and thanked Grandma for, helping her. Said, I just forgot it. Said, I'm just glad he's happy and all that sort of thing, But there's many ways that she helped people, Like, for instance, there's Model T came that back in the 1920s, And there was about 3 people, 3 women. And I think my dog tried to catch that Model T too, But anyway, they came down there and they brought this woman out here, her head tied up, Lord, she must have been in pain. brought up, you know, because Grandma was deaf and I had to be interpreter, see, and we had little sign language that we worked up too, you know, that we talked by sign language a lot, you know. And so she examined her and felt her head, you know, and yeah, and she said, we got to get some medicine fixed, you know. So I went out and I knew exactly what to do. Just tell me what kind of a sickness it is, you know. This was a wild bird, you know, fowl of the air, is making her sick. That's, we got some kind of an animal or something pertaining to those sickness. Okay. So first thing I did, I went out there and I always keep dark glasses, you know, like beer bottle or something. And if I ever find some, I always keep it around because you wouldn't use nothing but a dark glass, like obsidian stone or something like that. See. I busted, pick out 4, the sharpest one, where you can hold it between the fingers. So I laid it out on little cloth, 4 of them, clean. And then we had a certain herb that I scraped real fine for about a spoonful. And I laid it out there too. So patients lays down on a pallet and Grandma was sitting down and Susan chanted a little bit, you know. And then start feeling her head and if found a spot where it is. So take one of those glass, punch a hole. You see just barely, just look like a little bead coming out of that, you know. And then put this one away, find another one, then find, and so it's got to be 4, always running in 4. So punch 4 little holes in there. Then she took those scrapings, put it in her mouth, and worked it out, and then put it on her head, and tie the head back so that medicine will stay on it. The woman got up without a pain no more. I mean, entirely different woman, you know. And just thinking of her, you know, they came all the way from, during that time, a long way from Henrietta to Seminole area, see, because we lived out in the sticks. So all that kind of stuff we went through, you know. Of course, my granny was she come from a long line of medicine people, so did both sides of my people did. And anyhow, later when my father came on in, he was born at about 1879, and at the turn of the century, he seemed to have gotten into a lot of trouble. Now, it has been said time and time again, the Indians had problems because at the turn of the century, when the so-called new civilization came in and the old traditional life, they tried to mix it together, and it was hard for them to do that. A lot of them got into trouble. In fact, I listened to old-timers where they talked about the time they got picked up, carried to Kansas, turned them loose, they had to walk back. And they found out later that some of these laws had to have a quota in order to carry so many, so they found some Indians around there, they picked them up and throw them together, said. And so I remember them talking about my father becoming an interpreter for them because they was coming back, none of them could speak English except Dad. On the way back, they stopped at some black home and told them they were hungry, you know, and so they fed them, and that's the way they walked back. And like I'm saying, that's where he got a lot of trouble too, see. Then I heard him and another man talking about one thing, this man asked him. A place called Old Cucac Falls, there between Seminole and Prague, you know.
What's the name of it?
Cucac Falls. Was the old town in the old days. And that's where a lot of laws worked out, and it was kind of a boom town actually in the way it sounded like. And so this man and old man Martin and my dad was talking, you know, this old man said, "Hey, Willie," he said, he was talking to me, "Remember that time they caught us and tied us up around those trees, you know?" And see, that's what they did, you know, they didn't have no jail, you know, they tied them around the trees, you know. "Remember that time?" He said, "You got away?" I said, "Yeah." So how did you get away, you know? And he would start, you know, talking about it, and so that law looked around and checking over his people, and looked around, and that tree where he put Willie there, it was gone. He said, "Where's my Willie?" You know. Then next thing you know, he got his hounds, you know, to start trailing him. They was probably down at the bottom somewhere. It's in a little town over here, Cucac Falls. Well, the dog took off for that way, you know, and towards town. And that's what the old man was asking. He said, "How did you get away from them dogs?" He said, "Well, I knew he was going to be after me with a dog, so I got up to the town. He said, I pulled my boots off, and I just, walked back in the cars here and then among a lot of people. And he said, I got on the other side, put my boots on, I just went on home. It's as simple as that. He said. But anyway, there's one time he didn't get out. Later in years, because in all his problem, I'm thinking he was shot once, with a rifle completely through. That his grandfather, which came on 12 years I was talking about, was a medicine man. Because they took him there, and that he treated him and cleaned him out, used herbs and stuff, and he came out of it. But when he got shot, though, actually, him and a white man was together. And so this guy that ambushed him, he shot his friend in the head and killed him, and then shot Dad, see, through the chest, Yeah. But he lived through it. And so Dad used to talk about it. He said, none of these medicine men won't even do what the old timers used to do. He said, when I was shot and brought up there, Grandfather took a little bone, looked like a little horn. It's a tube. And they put it against the wound and sucked all the blood out and spit it out on both sides. And then, of course, it was very common for the Indians use red clay. They spit on it, work it up, and of course they chant too, see. And they flatten it out and close the holes. And ordinarily, when they wash those wounds, ordinarily they usually use feathers to wash it with. They don't touch it anymore once it's set up, see. So this is what they was doing, and he lived through it. Well, anyway, later on, he got crippled up, naturally, and later in years, he walked with a cane. And then when he was sent to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas by Judge Parker, him and Emmett Dalton, the Dalton gang, two of them got killed, Emmett lived. So they were sent up there, so when they finished their time, they both was released. They came out, Dad used to talk about Emmett this and Emmett that, and for a long time I didn't pay much attention to it until I found out who he was talking about. So when he came back home, his first wife died. And so he ended up with a little girl named Rachel, which I just lost last Christmas morning, at 78 years old. And so after his wife died, he became United States Indian Marshal about that time. And he didn't ride a horse, he ride a buggy. Ride a real fancy buggy, fancy horse, and started running around and finally found my mother, probably 15, 16-year-old kid, and they got married. I was the first child of that. And but my mother was enrolled as Creek. She was half Creek and half Seminole. And so when they got married, later in years, I'm 3/4 Seminole by blood. And so later in years, when I came back from World War II, came home, and of course I was going into the Indian politics, pretty common because we always into something like that anyway. So here I was, and so the Hijiti band asked me if I would consider serving on the General Council as a representative from that band. So they call him Mikwiji, which is a chief or the leader of that band.
What band do you remember?
Hijiti band. My father came from Hijiti band. There were the few Hijitis that were left. It was a great band at one time, Hijitis. And also, I think you probably found it in a history about Hijitis and Miccosukis. I think those two were the biggest, the largest band among that Seminoles. And of course, I think Hijiti's gone now, and the language is gone. So that's where I was there, and so they gave me a paper, and I went to the council meeting, and first thing they see, they said, hey, he's no Seminole, he's Creek. I forgot that by the old tradition, you follow mother's side. Yeah, I got kicked out or rejected right at the beginning, see. By that time, the Creek tribe tribal chief for the Creek Nation was Elliot Noon. And him and I was talking, hey, I heard about it, so and so. I said, he said, why don't you serve on my council? I said, oh, I'll come and sit anyway now and then, but I said, I'm going to wait a while, So I did. But I did sit on the council with him now and then. And so one day I forgot all about any politics, till one day, after my mother passed, my dad passed away, my mother said, hey, I got a card, and they invited me to come to the old band of the Arbeacon North Fork, the Creek Nation. That's where she belonged, the Arbeacon North Fork. That's where Yarborough, she come from the Yarborough family, see, the Creeks. And that's where they, so I took her down there. So during the meeting, the old man, I forgot his name now, Lenny Hound, or Lumsey Hajo. He's an old man, one of the Yarborough people, and it's up there talking to the old man. So I was all sitting up there, sitting way in the back, smoking my cigarette, minding my own business. And they was all talking. I said, who's going to represent us? Who's going to be our king? Who's going to be our leader here? Who's going to represent us on the general council? And pretty soon, the old man said, hey, don't forget now. I said, Woodco. Woodco means raccoon. That's my Indian name, see. That's all they call me, Woodco, see. I said, Woodco like to us, too. He said, there's Woodco sitting over there. He said, he belongs here. And so when he said that, everybody looked back. The almost need to his shit, he said. He's a smart man. The next thing you know, before I knew it, I was a chief of that Arbeacon North Park. And then, of course, during that time, before they changed the Constitution, by the old Constitution they was going by, so you had to have a warrior. So they elected a warrior for me too, see, to serve, that we served together. So one of the first official serving as a member of the Creek Nation, I served with Rolly Buck. Chief Rolly Buck was a full-blood Creek Indian, and he speak his language more than he did English. Next thing you know, I become kind of an interpreter for him, reading resolutions and all that sort of thing, and interpreting. And so I got pretty popular within the council. In fact, I got pretty powerful within it, because I could speak both languages, and because we had nothing but native language speakers, we have English speakers too, sir. And so we had to have both of them, so that's where I came in handy. But over a period of time, it changed too the other way. I remember I was on there for years, and I remember when we filed a suit against federal government on Fort Jackson case. Okay, now I spent about 5 years on the council, and I pulled out. And then when Doak McIntosh was principal chief, he asked me if I would serve with him. I told him yes. So he gave me a special appointment, but by rights. By the old Constitution, I was still a member anyway, because my band never did change me. So my band always said, we never did change him. He said, we don't want to change him. He's our chief. They always say, Homie Kujidos, he's our king, or whatever, a leader. And I guess most of it's dead now, except maybe 2, 3 of them left. But of course, since the Constitution has been changed, been changed since. But by the old Constitution, that's where I served.
And what's your mother's band?
Arbeacon North Fork. Arbeacon. A-R-B-E-K-A. Arbeacon. Arbeacon North Fork, and there is another town. It's Arbeacon itself. This is Arbeacon North Fork. Yes, he was a member of that. So later time, I went ahead and after I served so long under Doak McIntosh of the Creek Nation, I done some interpreting for him too, because he couldn't speak native language. See. So I become, interpreter from the other side this way. But by that time, our native language being lost to them, but we still had few. Their first language was their native language. If it is, you can understand your native first language, then you do the second language. But so that's where I came in handy for Doak McIntosh then. And so I served with him, and then I finally pulled out, and I don't know, I've worked for the BIA, and adult education promotions and things like that. I even taught craft for the Seminole Nation of the BIA, and little of this, and then I work as a head of the Seminole Nation Housing Authority, the chairman of the board. And there were things like this, you know. So, of course, you know, but most important thing in my life, I imagine, would be I was in the ministry for about 25 years with the United Methodist Church. And I guess I held just about practically every office within the conference, on the Indian Mission Conference. But I specialized mostly during that time as a director of youth programs. And that's where my main job was. And I was with the Speakers Bureau, so that gives me a chance to travel and speak here and there. Tell people how poor our Indian was, you know, and all that. Which there were. I mean, we were having a problem, you know. But nowadays, I think we're coming out of it gradually. Like, we had a reunion, and I was telling him, I said, I used to go out and beg, but I said, I quit that. I said, I'm telling him that my people is really up there, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who was your grandfather? What was his name?
Mulcahy.
How you spell that?
M-U-L, let's see, Mulcahy, M-U-L-K-A-S-C, I believe, Mulcahy. See, Mulcahy had 3 boys. My dad, my Uncle William C., and there was another one, his name was Marcusy. I never did know him. But the story I've heard was back in the old Indian days. Somehow or another got mixed up with some woman problem or something. And I think they said he was in a wagon with this woman going down the road. So this man came along with his whip, one of them, what do you call it? And big old snake whip that the Indians used to call a snake whip, you know. And started whipping him, you know, and told him not to do it. He kept it up. So he just pulled out his pistol, because most everybody carried a pistol anyhow. I just shot him right off of the horse. See. Well, after they did, of course, you know, by that time the Indian Territory was over, and it became a state by that time anyway, see. So they took him to Wewoka, and he was in jail, and he got sick. But in the meantime, my grandmother and some of the old-timers believed that the opposition, or the man that he killed, you know, his family, witched him. That this is a very strong belief in an Indian. A lot of people don't know it, but it is true. In fact, you'll find that to be very strong in some area even this day. And so that's what happened, as he said. They set up all night witching him. Shin Hayat, and that's what they used to say. They set up all night to witch that person, doing that. So after that, Inabo Hodalekin, which means all of a sudden the body, you know, kind of start disappearing. Because we described it that when it gets that disease, there's nothing you can do about it. You just gradually just kind of fade away and they die, you know. So she said that he got so bad in jail that he couldn't eat, laying there just kind of wasting, you know. So they told him, he said, well, take your son home, you know. They took him home, so he died at home. So grandmother always believed that it was the witching that caused it, you know. So there's many things you can talk about of that type of thing of an Indian, you know. But actually, when he started with that, that's what made an Indian. Because he believed in things like this. He believed in owl, a man turning himself into an owl and fly through the night, you know, and all that kind of thing. So if you notice Kelly's artwork, a lot of it's pertained to the old legendary stories. And when he painted that picture called Miccosukee Owl, and that picture's got pictures within picture, you know. In his eyeball there's a stalk dancing around a fire, and the other one is a face, and underneath is right along in here is part of the body and holding a child and all that, and the stomp ground, medicine man, warrior yesterday and warrior today, and you had all that in there.
I was in General Morgan's office.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of his artwork on the wall.
Good. Well, anyway, he said, there's a lot of people afraid of owls. The Seminoles and Creeks did use owl feathers to protect the home. Yeah, they always had them on a door
Yeah.
post to protect them. If anybody comes with harm to harm you, then he would wake you up or warn you. In fact, even this day you will find some people with their feathers hanging on the door. But anyway, so that Kelly said, you know, man, he said, boy, I was working with that night. He said, I finally finished late that night. He said, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, he lived out in the country, you know, there's a tree that was standing right next to his house, and an owl came up there and sat on there, and he said, boy, he just turned it loose. And this, man, he said, you know, if you ever get that close when they do that, man, it just sound like it just shake the whole house. It's the way it sounds, you know. He said, man, it did that. And he said, well, I guess maybe I did get approval after all, you know. That's the way he felt, you know.
I was going to ask, why do a lot of the Indian tribes think the owl is bad luck?
Well, I know the Plains Indians are more so, you know, afraid of it than many others. So I kind of talked to some of the old timers some years ago, just why, you know. And so they told me, an old man told me years ago, he said, well, to begin with, he said, owl was a sacred owl, like a god. He could harm you if you do anything against it. So people always kind of, you know, hey, but leave him alone, you know, and all that sort of thing, you know. So over a period of time, the younger generation came, and next thing you know, some said, hey, it's going to give you bad luck. The whole thing changed to bad luck now. That's where we stand now. But he said it came because of the great respect for the owl to begin with. Another respect now is fear now. That's a whole change over a period of time. But like I said now, my people, the Seminoles and Creek, they still believe in that. But the younger people now, they're picking up all these others, you know, so, hey, owl, I don't want it. I don't want no owl, you know. In fact, one of the princes I helped sponsor, and I took an owl feather, a beautiful tail. I made a fan. I explained to him. I said, you can use this, but I said, not anybody. I said, but don't tell people this is powerful. People are afraid of it. Only you, it is yours, and people will respect you because even if they didn't know you had it, and if you can use it without getting hurt with it, then you got a strong medicine, you know. So she did. And I used to see her pictures in paper and everything with that owl fan, you know. Like I said, a lot of people don't know it, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know it.
You say that your grandfather was sent to Fort Leavenworth by Issac Parker.
Mm-hmm.
What did he do?
I really don't know. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I know that he was sent there. He talked about it. He talked about, you know, Judge Parker and all that sort of thing, you know. And he talked about how Judge talked about it. That you are hanged by the neck until you're dead, 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 you know. And which one was it? He said he was standing before him. He had consented to die. He said he was there, you know. And he said, the judge said, now you got anything to say before I sentence you? He said, yeah. He said, you need to kiss my ass. Dad used to tell about that, you know. And sure enough, later in years, I seen in one of those Western magazines talking about that part, you know. Oh, yeah.
Did you ever hear any stories about the Trail of Tears? What happened on the trail?
Well, some. But what little we've heard, I have heard, that had been handed down, when they're traveling, because some said, well, the medicine, some of them brought their medicine along. The women had to carry the medicine because men were searched and taking everything and thrown away. the women put it under their clothes, you know, and so they carried some of the medicine with them across the country to brought here. So they believed, that the old timers believed, that we brought our own medicine from the old country. Now they had brought their medicine, strong medicine, and so they have herbs here too, see, so they go in and start using it. Not only that, like for instance, in this day, the Seminoles, if you ever go to a funeral, you will see, put them in a coffin like anybody else. And but you will see in that on that coffin at the closing of the day, before the burial, they will put a blanket over the coffin before they close a vault or a box, you know. And I used to wonder why, you know. I never, questioned much, I guess. I just kind of took it, kind of for granted for years until one man was standing there and he said, "You know where that began?" I said, "No." He said, "I understand it began on the Trail of Tears. And the Trail of Tears, when the loved one died, they didn't have no time to go through ceremonies, or to bury him, give him decent burial. It was pushed. It was being pushed. So the only thing they could do was take the best quilt they had and cover the body and keep on going. And that's where it began. Even this day, when they die, they put a brand new blanket over the coffin before it's covered. And then when they bury him, naturally, when they bury him, everybody takes part in throwing the dirt in there. Some people thought, well, everybody just help bury him. No, the original idea is that when you take your little dirt, very sacred dirt, and you throw it up there saying, "So long, see you again." There is no goodbye in our language, see. But it always says, "Oh, I'll see you again. We'll see each other again. Adam see each other too. We'll see each other again. Adam see each other too, or I'll see you again." See? So this is the way they always, farewell is always like that. I'll see you again. So so I kind of figured there's some of those things that happen, of course, like a fire. The traditional people claim that they also brought their own fire with them from the old country. And so when they open up their ceremonial ground, they go through the ceremonies in order to make it holy. That's how come when you go there, you don't drink even today. A lot of people think, man, here like Indian storm dance out in the woods, they're back there drinking and having so-called good time. They don't do that. That's one thing they won't. You go on out there, you're going to be sober if you're going to participate. And when you go up there, and if you find any drink or smell any drink on you cannot dance, they might let you sit down if you behave. But most of them will be turned at the gate. Turn them out. Get rid of them. In the old days, when they caused problems, they used to just tie them around a tree and let them sit there the rest of the night. See? Yeah. And that's many trees to it.
How do they, what's the ceremony when they open the, say they have is it a sacred ceremony where they open the...
Yeah, well, it's more of a, it all started, let's put it this way, it all started, I understand, one old man told me one time years ago, that when he first started out, of course, when you hear these things, you hear them get out there and start going around and on, and you hear them say, the leaders, "Yo!" And they would answer too, "Yo! Yo!" They just walk around till they start talking, around the fire. And then, of course, shell shakers are behind and they dance. And I heard tell that the beginning of the sound dance was a long time way back in the old country, like they say, like Georgia, Florida. It was very common for medicine men to come together, or people come together and take medicine. There was all in a group just sitting there all night taking medicine. And it was tiresome just sitting there. And had a fire there. And so one man stood up and he just started stretching. "Oh, hey!" Then he just started stretching. "Yeah, yeah!" Somebody answered him, It goes on and on and on. They start dancing, and it become more of an exercise after that. And course, in the original belief, a lot of things like, I know I read a script one time, which I translated, I recorded it. Something about in the old days, the Creeks in their country believed that the sun was a great, kind of like God. And then the fire here was very closely related. The sacred fire you have, so I remember recording some of this by saying, if you do anything wrong in the side of this fire, before you could run at the length of your arm, he's already done notified the great sun that you have done this. The sun, you got to have to live. Without it, you cannot live. See? So they had a great respect for a sun and all that sort of thing. So much of those is lost there.
Yeah.
Much of those is lost.
You said the men sat around taking medicine.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of medicine?
Herbs.
Herbs.
Yeah. More likely for purification. Ordinarily, they take medicine, and they take it, and of course, the doctor, medicine man would fix it up, and then they would take it to purify themselves, see. And so they drink it, and it just clears them out. And just throw it all out. Just throw it all up. Which a medicine person, we used to do that individually. People come there. Individually, they are sick, that need some purification, or to eliminate the system that brings it out. And like sometime, Grandma used to catch that in a pan or something, examine it. And sometimes you wonder, God, that stuff was in me, big old lumps and stuff, Yeah, all that come out, see. And so they can breathe better, they feel better, and that's what it was all about. So that's what they did. So that would have been the same thing that they would have been doing, okay? Not only that, the leaders probably talked to them to be good to one another and all that sort of thing, share with one another and these things, which they still do today. Yeah. You go up there, and they'll go up there and talk to their people. They got a main speaker there. They'll talk to them. When a stranger comes, take good care of them, feed them, help each other, and all that sort of thing. So they did that, so I imagine it's probably what they did in the old days when all this began. But
Now, did they bring the sacred fire with them over the trail?
yes, They claim, well, the sacred fire actually was ashes. And like, for instance, here one time, years ago, in this part of the country, we started losing our ceremonial ground for a while. I mean, there was some closing down here and closing down there because there are not that many people there. And in fact, the Christian movement got to be very, very strong, and they were very much against those things. So that actually divided the Indian people, the Christian people, and the traditional people. They divide them up. And of course, Indians been reading the Bible since 1855 anyhow, because I think that's when the translation came in. And they've been, because even in my time, I've seen some old Indians couldn't even speak English, learn to read a Bible. And of course, they concentrated in their own native way, and that's how come much of their songs were composed by the Indian people themselves. Because me being in the ministry for years, and naturally I could understand, like the Bible, they say, the writers of the New Testaments and others were written by the people, yes, but by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. And I remember one black man used to come and preach in my pulpit once in a while. I'd get him down there. He was talking about Jesus during his time after his resurrection. That he didn't go back, for so long. He stayed around among people, but he said, I thought he had days and everything. He had about 30 days or something like that he wasn't seen nowhere. He said, you know where I think he was? He said, I think he was up here among Indian people and in America. Yeah, that's the way he said it. And he believed it. Well, so I thought about it. Well, I don't know. Why couldn't it be? Yeah. There is no history in the Bible, and so he just said it to himself. He said, I'm sure he was up here with people here, working with people here, teaching them to be good to one another, So I think And but out of that, I think in the early days, what I understand about old timers talking, they said the Christian people that belonged to church, they went to the ceremonial ground on a weekend or whenever they have ceremony to take their medicine. Maybe they didn't dance because they're Christian, but they go for their health. They go and take their medicine. And then they go back to their church and they have their singing and preaching. And so, like I said now, much of those songs were composed by them and not written. It just handed down from generations after generations. See? And so, at the same time, the traditional people, they came to their church with great respect. Yeah, they come in and sit down and they eat together and they go back and they live together, very friendly people. Seems like, this might be just my thinking. Seems like there's another group of missionaries came. That kind of depends on how they interpret their Bible, Said, you're going to have to stay away from the heathens. It's a heathenistic thing and it's no good, And so here's a Christian Indian and said, God, what am I doing here, Some of them actually went back to traditional life. And some of them stayed in there. They went along with their teaching. And so that's how come next thing you know, they become a divided group. It really did. Because I was right in the middle of it for generations to see the division between the two. Okay, when I was in the ministry, I remember, maybe that's one reason I'm not in it. I would go to them, like powwow, and I surprised a lot of people when I worked as a missionary among the Issac Parker in Shawnee years ago. When I came up there, because they had a little mission at one time, and I reopened it. I didn't plan to reopen it. I was just working with people, and I said, reopen it. And then next thing you know, I went to the powwow. They didn't allow it then, at the time. And but now it is. Now you can go to powwow. And of course, some of our preachers are emceeing powwows and so on. Now, but during that time, you couldn't go there, much less go into traditional psalm dance over there. You couldn't go. I couldn't go. And but I was still in there. So I went to the powwows and said, hey, what's this? Preacher coming to our powwow. Well, I'm interested in people, so naturally we got, after about 4 years of working among them, I guess what you might say they accepted me. And after that time, then we got along all right, So some of the old time, Native American church is very strong in this. And one of the leaders was a very good friend of mine. We had a lot of talk. And I tell her about my belief according to the Bible, and of course as an Indian too, Because he talked about his, and his way of thinking in his particular religion. That old boy had a good head on him, very dedicated to his people. He always wanted to help his people. I even invited me into his ceremony.
What was his name?
Grover Foster.
Grover Foster.
He's dead now. Tom McClellan, Sack and Fox, one of the leaders of their people, and Bill Nawashi. Bill Nawashi was a former football player with Jim Thorpe. They played football together. And he came into my church. He'd been coming out there quite a while, The old man, 6 years old. One day he came in. I got there earlier. And my son Kelly, he's always going out there and hauling people in, Put a dent in my car once in a while. And then you don't clear the tree once in a while. Well, anyway, old Bill came walking in one day before everybody got there. I sitting back there going over my sermon. Hey, I talked to you. I said, okay, turn him on. He said, I want to be part of your people. What do I do? I said, you ever been baptized? I said, yeah. But I've never been to church ever since. When they was in Carlisle, he was baptized. But like I said, he said, never been to church, since. But he's been a traditional man all his life. But he said, I've been watching him for 3 years, and he said, I want this. I said, all right. I said, you believe in Jesus Christ? He said, yes, I believe him. And if that's what it is, I believe him. I said, well, that's all it takes. And you just try to live according to his ways, you know. Okay. Had his granddaughter, you know. I said, I want you to baptize me again. I said, okay. Methodists do that, see. You want to be baptized? Fine. If the individual wants it. But if you don't want it, we'll accept before he was baptized with respect to it, see.
Yeah.
But if they want it naturally, we do it, and that's what we do. So I baptized him, brought him in that church that morning, and after it's over, everybody leaves me and come out there, hey, Wood, what am I going to do now? I'm a Christian. I guess I'll have to leave my people. I said, no. I said, that's where you belong, among your people. You're a leader to look up to you as an elder. You cannot leave him. But the only thing I'm going to ask is that if you come here Sunday morning from 11 to 12, I'll be here to bring you a message. And that message is not mine, but it comes from above to give to you that you can use it. So when you go out, you don't tell people, I got this from Woodrow Haney. So Woodrow Haney don't have that much sense. So you go out there and tell people, this is what our great father wants. You know, that opened a whole field for me. Yeah. Grover Foster's children, his wife and all, that, you know, Native American church, I baptized every one of them in that church. Yeah. The only one I didn't baptize was Grover. But Grover was there about every Sunday. Yeah, he was going out there using that sermon, what he was doing. I knew he was doing, you know, but I was glad. In fact, I respect him, actually respect him more so than a lot of people I know. Yeah, he went out there and actually displayed it in his native church. And the stories he told about all those things, like for instance, your dog feast, and they have that, you know. So a lot of people don't talk about it, but the dog feast was, and he let me in a ceremony one time. I sat in with him. And so we talked about it later on. I said, all right, I said, what about this dog feast night? Why? I knew he had a story behind it. He said, well, the story went kind of like this. Put it on the table. Then he said, it was a long time ago. There was a family there. Dogs is a great thing among the Indians. You know, that's the best there, too. Some of the hundreds dogs. He said, so one of the boys, you know, they had children, one of the boys took the best dog. He went off into the woods to hunt. Never returned. Days going by. Old man really worried. He was hurt. Waiting for his son. And so he prayed and he prayed. The Great Spirit said to him, he said, well, he said, what you got to do in order to get your son back alive again, to see him alive again, is pick the best dog you got. You kill him, dress him, and eat him as a ceremony, and give prayer of thanks, and your son will return. And so it did. And that's where all that, the dog ceremony comes in, and where they use in their ceremonies. It's like the only time they use it that I know of, you know. A lot of people think they get hungry, they well can look for a dog and eat it, you know. I even heard people say, them dog eating people like that, you know. But I never seen one that actually just eat it just to do that. But just for ceremony, yes. They use it very reverently. Like this feast I've seen them do, there was a death. And they had a bark house. What they call a bark house. It's a regular place for that. It's got platforms inside where everybody sat there. There's a hole in the top. And then there's a fireplace in the center. The hole up there is because the smoke got to go through. So he had a pot up there. So he brought his dog and put it in there, and then so on. And he got through very reverently. He went through it. He gave tobacco to everyone. He's a priest, actually. So he took a piece of stick. He's got a fire on the end from the fireplace. He took a walk around and light up. In fact, he had cigarettes. Light up every cigarette, every people that sat in there. He was a servant. Actually, he was a servant when you stop and think. Then he got down on his knees and pulled out his military flag and Indian tobacco. They still use that even today in their funeral and so on. I remember him leaning beside that fire. His daughter's cooking in a pot, and there he's sitting there on his knee, and he throws it in there, talking in his native language, Issac Parker. A friend of mine was sitting there with me, Wackerly, Hugh Wackerly. He's still living, and he was interpreting for me. And he said, you know, he's saying, hey, this man had a hard time in this world. Now he's coming. When he gets there, he said, take him showing grandma and grandpa and uncle and start naming all people, you know, that have died. They're all there. When he gets to be showing, take him around and show him, you know. He had a hard time here. It's over now, you know. It's a good time now, you know. And he said, it's like early in the morning for some of us. Early morning, noon, and late in the evening. He'll be there. Just give it a little time, and he'll be there. He wants you to take care of it when you come back to it. But in the meantime, there is no rest here. So that's what he's saying, you know. It's very, very good. I mean, spiritually, you know, what else can you get, you know, from a people like that do it so reverently, you know. So sometimes I talk about little things like that. I even got in a Hickory Apache ceremony. I went to school about 7, 8 years ago. I had an opportunity to go to school, summer school, studying linguistics at the University of Albuquerque. So I was there, and it was mostly Indians. They're studying linguistics because many of them were writing their own native language. Some of them are really going into writing stories, and they had enough funding where they can get out their videotape cameras, you know, and they go out and interview old-timers and their stories. Many of those people are writing it, so they won't be lost. And so I got in there. Next thing you know, I was invited to some ceremonies, so I finally took one at the Hickory Apache Reservation. It was quite an experience for me. Things like that when I see different areas, you know, they got some kind of spiritual background which they use. And of course, we still call them heathens.
Have the Indian songs been written down and recorded that you talked about?
Yes, After 1855, I'm sure it was 1855, after it was done, many of those songs were written. Like there is a songbooks on the market for years, and they finally, then of course they got some more, same money, copies anymore. And people have attempted to write some of those, but then there is some that has never been written. Yeah. And not too many people knows those old songs now.
Do you know?
Yeah. I know just about all of them, I guess. If I don't know it, it's lost. Yeah. If I don't know, it's lost. But I've written 9 of them. Yeah, and written hymns. And because, you know, for a period of years now, some of my own people, the Creek's been asking me, why don't you record it, you know, and preserve it? And in fact, they want me to record it for learning purposes. See, take a little money to do all that, you know. I got 2 language tapes on the market now. One is that number 1, which teaches the person how to read and write from the alphabet that was developed. We only used 19 of the 26, and we changed some sounds. And then, of course, I got the second one, which goes into more conversation, like I'm going to town and this and that, more sensitive. And then, of course, I got first volume of flute music I did about 3 or 4 songs, but I didn't do it by making a plan. I was in the studio. He was making a movie one time called Arrow, documented movie, you know, school children. And I had next to the studio. I said, hey, can I use it? He said, I need about 30 minutes. Help me, say, I want to come, you know. So I was doing it back in there, you know. So my wife said, no, thank you. So we went and said, hey, Seminole Indian hymns. I'm saying, you know. So they called in. And I was in that room. They said, why don't you go ahead and sing some of those in that? Just out of a blue sky, I just described it a little bit, and I sung some of those old hymns. And I played a flute a while, you know, and I'll sit down and sing a while. And some of the older songs is in there. And so I was doing a theater play not long ago. You know. And the first night I was supposed to play in the mission at the beginning of the second. I was supposed to play a flute. And I did first night. And then the directors came in next evening. Hey, we want you to sing. I said, what? And I didn't know, but they heard that tape, you know. So some old Indian come walking in there and listen to it. You know. Hey, that's an old song. Nobody even uses it in the churches anymore. Where'd you all get that, you know? They got carried away, see? So, why don't you sing? So I did, instead of playing flute, you know, for the second part, I started off with a song, an old hymn. And what a response I had. People, some of them responded by prayer, you know, prayerful, with bowed head, and all that sort of thing. Huh? God, I didn't know it, you know, but it did work like that in that play. So,
What play was it?
oh, it's called Indian Extravaganza. I was emceeing. In fact, I was doing all the talking, and we had dances and this and that. I was describing and telling stories and this and that. You know. Because Pittman gave me a name some years ago as a storyteller. You know. Looks like I got hung with that name, you know, as a storyteller. So sometimes I get in it.
Native language only has 19 letters.
Yeah.
Now, did the Seminoles and Creeks speak the same language?
Yeah. Nowadays, yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays. What
Yeah.
about in the old days?
There was another language called Hijita language, which the Seminoles spoke that. The Hijiti was a large band at one time. And the last one that spoke that particular language was my father. See, my grandmother and that family, they spoke the Hijita language, very close to Miccosukee language. So when my folks died, that was the end of the Hijita language. But Miccosukee and that was very close enough that communication wasn't that, you know, hard. So the particular language we got, known as Muskogean language, now, there's only a few words that might be a little different in Creek as well as Seminole, but for its communication, no problem. Because we don't worry about we speak nothing but English anymore anyhow, no, but so you don't find too many of them talking the native language. I like to start a group around here. I got a group that wants to, but I haven't had time to really get started.
Yeah.
We're talking about grouping native speakers group. And because I got a lot of writing I need to do in a native language. Like those 2 tapes there, it doesn't even touch, you know, 1/100th of it. Yeah. There's so much that can be written. And it costs so much to do a lot of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
When was the alphabet first written down?
Supposed to have been about 1855, somewhere down there. Presbyterian's supposed to have done that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there wasn't anyone like Sequoia
No,
and the Cherokees.
No, it's entirely different.
Okay.
This is entirely, this was taken from the English alphabet, using only 19 of them. They changed some of them, like R, we never use R. Like Robert, you know, we always call him Laba. We always use L, you know. So they change that character R into he, like Sasso, which means fish. He, see, Sasso. And then another change, major change they did was C. C was like CH, chi, chi, chi. And then the other major change that was made was V. Since we have F for figurative sound, so naturally we use V as, ah, like AH. Yeah, ah. See, if you're going to spell ani, V-N-E, ani. See? Of course, if the Indian's going to spell it, ani, that's what he'd say, ani, ani. Yeah, those are, was used, and like I said, though, much of those are just about gone now.
Yeah.
Practically gone. I imagine only, like I always try to tell them, they need to practice it at home as a family.
Right.
So when I made those tapes, I made it where a family can use it, not so much in classrooms, where individual can take it home and just listen and listen. Not only one in the family, but the whole family should listen to it and start using it. Like eat, wake, or quit. That first lesson, it's got all that in there. See? It's only a 30-minute deal, see, but it covers quite a lot of territory.
Yeah. Did any of your family take part in the Seminole Wars before the removal?
It's hard to say, really. But the kind of attitude my family has, if some of the bound been in there somewhere.
What about any stories of Osceola?
Not too much at all. Because it's the old legends and so, like legends of Osceola, like, well, it's history too, a lot of history's there. Like after he was taken prisoner, when he came in to talk peace, and after 7 years of fighting, and he came in with his braves and his chiefs to sit down to talk peace. Colonel Jessup ordered him taken prisoner. And so Kelly painted that picture and called it Indignity, a Flag of Truce. And after that, it has been said, after he was laying in that fort, and it seems like I heard that he had 2 wives in his life. I may be wrong, but anyway, he asked his wife to go and get his warrior clothes. The warrior clothes had his kind of long shirt and all that, put everything together, and he bid farewell to all his friends. And they brought them all in there, bid farewell, and took his knife and put it under his belt, lay down, and he just died. And just like that. So that's an old legend.
Yeah.
Okay, then another thing too, after he died, it has been said that his head was cut off and sent to Medical Science Building in New York City in 1838. And in about 1850, 55, somewhere up in there, it had been claimed that the building burnt down where Osceola's head was. His people were not satisfied because he feels that all his bones must be together before he can completely rest. And so after this burning, it was the end of it. And I was working with the National Park Service up to about 2 years ago in Georgia, where the old creek was. The archaeologists, good friends of mine, we talked a lot about these, and talking about this one time, And then I went back one year, and this archaeologist came up and he said, "Hey, Wood, I'll talk to you." He said, "I got something for you." I said, "What?" He said, "As soon as you left last year," he said, "we got notice. Somebody disturbed Osceola's grave." So they're supposed to have been secret, but I guess, archaeologists probably knows all that anyway. Well, anyway, he said, so we got permit to go check it over. So we got permission to go, we dug it up. He said, we dug up everything except skull. So that kind of verified the fact what has been said all these years was true. So that's how come, like Kelly, in his research, kind of funny thing, some of these things come out, And we was doing a talk for a Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. in '76. Did about a week. And he told about in his lecture on his painting, he brought out a picture of Chief Joseph. And he started telling about why he, painted that picture of a feather that Chief Joseph had in the dark of the eagle feather, but it was a broken feather, a broken promise, And so after he ran, they finally caught him just before he got out, brought him back. Later he had a chance to talk to the Congress, and he said something like, oh, he said, it makes my heart sick when I think of all these good words and broken promises. And he, actually what he's saying is that he was talking about over 300 treaties that were made, not a one was kept. That's what he was talking about, a broken promise. So he painted that picture and called it Broken Promise. And then on top of that, he said, in my research, he said, documents and everything, because he does go into a lot of research to make do his work. And he said, I found out, he said, even this day, the skull of Chief Joseph is in a dentist's office in California. That shocked the heck out of a lot of people. But he said, if this was not a fact in my research, he said, I wouldn't say it. Because I never heard him talk about it anymore since. Because it's going to hurt people a lot, when you do that. Because I never hardly talk about either, except maybe, once in a while like this, I might bring out some of those things like Osceola and all that sort of thing. But there's most of those Osceola story, I imagine, but best thing you do is probably get it from the, probably some people from there. They've probably got some legendary stories that they've been told, as in people by people, not written. And some of those things are still existing. Like, for instance, 2 years ago, I was in Georgia, I was in Florida. First I was in Georgia, and I decided to go to Florida and look around and see some of my people. So I came to Big Cypress Reservation. There's a little store there. Little shop, stopped there. Got me a hot dog, and we just started talking, because on the reservation, it's all Indian. One of the main thing about, a good thing about Indian people is clan. When I said, hey, what clan are you? I said, I'm a bird. Oh, you're a bird. He said, you got sister and brother. He started calling all his, hey, so-and-so, come here, you got a brother here, Next thing you know, within 15 minutes, we were all just like brothers and sisters, just carrying on and talking, and then he told a story. And this kind of story is thick, because they don't want to talk to any white people about it, He said, one day, he said, the whole boat drove his car up, fill a tanker. Man, he took off. Pretty soon, boy, he'd come back. He said, hey, give me some more gas. Well, what happened? I just filled it. He said, well, there's certain grounds that they're all kind of most people would call it spooky places, to them kind of a sacred ground, He said, every once in a while something happens in those areas. He was driving his car. He went up there, felt kind of funny looking in a rear view mirror. Hey, seen 3 warriors sitting back there, turban and all. And they looked again, kept looking. Finally, he stopped and looked, and they were gone. In the meantime, as I seen my gas gauge going down. So he just turned around and came back. He said, I'm going out the other way. A long way, but I'm going out the other way. Then he told the story, what happened in that particular area. During those wars, the medicine man turned some of his people invisible to go scout as invisible people. And it took that medicine man to bring him back. And but while they were on the scout missions, he died, the medicine man. So those people, that particular people that was turned invisible, never was restored, and they're still living out there. And so these kind of things, it's still going strong, see. Because a lot of people won't believe it, naturally. But this is actually what people think among Indian people. There's so many of the things that the Indians think that nobody knows. Okay, in my lectures, right here in Tulsa, and everybody says, "Oh, I know Indians. Oh, I know Indians. I'm my good friends. My friends are Indians, you know." Yeah, but what's back there? Nobody knows a thing about him. Just believe and where he came from and what makes him an Indian. And how many people wants to be an Indian, you know? Oh, I'm an Indian. I'm 1/4 Indian. I'm 16. Well, that don't mean much. Yeah, you're by blood, yes. But as to be an Indian, these are the things that he come through. That's what made him an Indian. Because to many people, they were dumb Indians for that. Then many people, they were heathens, you know. But anyhow, these kind of, you know, because we still got a few medicine men still existing, and not too many. And I imagine they'll be going out too. A lot of people are trying to learn. Okay, like, see right there. See that stone?
Yeah.
Yeah, look like a little bowl right there.
Yeah, right here.
Feel of it on the side. Just on the side, inside. Yeah, inside. And look at your finger and see. That's war paint. That's war paint. The old-time war paint. The Indians still believe that he can take those and then go through the, you know, places. They still consider that to be very, very strong medicine today. And so that is very, very sacred. And so I got a few rocks back there. See, I have some of the Indians come along and ask me, they said, "But you got it." Come whispering, you know. "But you got it. Fuck is that? You have it, because the fuck is that? A red clay." Yeah. Well, what do you want? Well, I'd like to have some, you know. I tell them, well, I have some. Talk about it later, and ordinarily I try to eliminate, you know, all of those because, you know, they consider me as one that can handle these things. Not anybody can handle it. It's just simply because, by the old timers know, that I was raised by an old lady with all the medicine, Indian medicine, herbs, and she would have treated me when I was young and said, "Son," he said, "one of these days you're going to grow old and get away from all these things." He was actually predicting or prophesying what's going to happen to me, which I did. You're going to forget all this. But he said, "Remember one thing." He said, I have treated you so you will not be hurt by these things. So don't be afraid. But he said, do one thing I'm asking you, which will I fail. Use purification every once in a while. If you lose your chance, remember, you mix that medicine, set it on the east part of the house where you live, overnight, next day, and through the night, some of the old timers, the medicine that went on, will come back and fix it for you. But be sure and have a purification, even by yourself, every so long. And so I think, you know, sometimes I really kind of neglect that part, which I think, getting up into my age now, which I need some kind of help now and then. So I'm going to start doing that. But I got to go back in the Cherokee Hills to get the medicine. Can't find it around here.
What kind of medicine is it?
Well, they call it red root, but there must be some fancy name for it. Yeah. And of course, there's other medicine that sumac was also used for that too. Sumac was supposed to be strong medicine. Sumac roots was also used.
Was there or is there much interaction between the Seminoles in Florida and Seminoles here?
Yeah, as an individual, we're usually on a friendly basis. I think even politically too far as that goes. Because, you know, In political area, I think there's some differences here and there, you know, but they usually have it, usually iron it out. So we really don't have any problem, that much problem.
What did you learn to play the flute?
I don't know, about 15, 20 years ago, long before that, I wanted a flute. I heard about it, and then I heard it. It's a long time ago. But then I tried to find somebody that makes it. Nobody made it. And I researched enough, and you didn't find that many in a museum either. But then I finally realized how it's made. And I was going through Bacon College, and that instructor over there knew how to do it. Because I already knew how it's made and so on. And after I seen that, and then I went ahead and I thought, I better do this. And so I tried. First one didn't work too well. But in my research, I also found out, too, that the Eastern people did have a flute, but they made it out with sumac. Because first thing to believe that sumac is a strong medicine. With that belief, it was easy for them to use that for flute. And so I took sumac and made it. Didn't work too well. I gave it away. But it wouldn't work anyway. Now this old boy got it. You can buy that for $1,000. and then later, then I made some more. I made 3 of them. I was Duncan, Oklahoma. And Doc Tate never quiet.
I know.
Doc was up there, you know, and he said, I heard you got a flute. I said, yeah, I'm going to try it. I don't know how good they are. I'm no flute player, but it's a lot to learn. He said, boy, I feel bad. I said, I need to play. He bring my flute. He does that. He wants, you know, he feels bad, a headache, you know, he plays. So he just got in the corner right next to me, you know, and he just sat down right there, facing the wall, and sat there and just played it. Man, beautiful music, you know. He had a crowd, but he didn't know it. He didn't even pay any attention to it. He was doing it for himself.
Yeah.
He was not performing, but he was doing it for his, you know, feelings. And so when he got through, he said, thank you very much for it. And I said, hey, why don't you teach me now? He said, there's no way I can teach you. You just have to learn it by yourself. And so I blew it on it for 6 months, I guess, before I got a little melody. And but now I can give that 6 months in 10 minutes time.
Yeah. Are women allowed to play the flute?
Some tribes no. Some tribes does.
What about Seminoles and Creeks?
It's a very good question. But because I'm about the only one among the whole group that plays flute and makes flute among my tribe, as well as Creeks. But a few Creeks is making it. They're just making it because they won't play it. Most of them won't play it. But anyway, I let them, or anyone that comes, wants to learn how to play, I let to go ahead and teach them. I went through about 60 kids in the last 3.5 years of that, teaching them how to make and play. Not all of them come out playing, but some of them did. Some of them are playing in schools, and they're students. So I picked on from 12 through 18 years of age kids, you know, because we had a government program that covered that in that area. So I took advantage of that, worked with them. And then, of course, you know, I used to get on television about flute. You know, Kelly asked me one time when he had Channel 5 in Oklahoma City, you know, he said, Daddy, he said, I want you to come up there and show how to make it. I said, okay. I took my wood and everything, and I showed just exactly how it's made, and I went through the whole thing. And sometime later, and I did the same thing in Channel 8, too. See. He had Channel 8 in Oklahoma City, too, then. Anyway, from the Channel 8, this old man, Muskogee, must have seen it, and I came up there, and he said, hey, Wood, I'll talk to you know, talking Indian. What go? I'm from one eye, and I said, what go, you know, let me talk to you, you know. He went aside, you know. He said, I seen you on television. I said, you did? No, I was kind of happy, you know. He was not too happy about it. He said, I want you to quit that. It's all right for you to make it. But when you put it on television, publicly like that, it's the kind of world we got. He said, like the hippie world, you know, white people. He said, the kind of world we got now, he said, they'll take that thing and they'll make a machine, and they'll make thousands and thousands of sounds of them. And he said, that's the only sacred thing we got left. The next thing it won't be worth a quarter, he said. I see what he was talking about, so I quit displaying it. But at the same time, people are making money with it all the time, all the books around. I think Ben Hunt already got one in his book now, that craft book. It's already in there. So I'm just playing second fiddle now as far as making money goes, you know. I could make a book and all that kind of stuff, things like this, you know. And but they're all making money now. I know people want it. But I'm a little afraid to just go out and play it up like a bunch of little junks, you know. I like to keep it as sacred. And so that's the reason that I take time. If I ever even sell one, I wouldn't sell one if it's got a bad sound. It's got to be able to play it. And I learned to play it because I always like the idea of mastering whatever I have. If I have anything, I like to be the master. And of course, to master this flute, I think I got the whole lifetime job. I'm learning all the time. People say I'm the best, okay? I don't believe it because I'm still learning. I'm still learning, but flute has done me a lot of good. And so naturally, I'd use it with respect. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, talking about that flute, you know, and this old man, I thought about it later, you know, after he told me, he said, you know, what people do today. Later on, I found out there's a Seminole, he's a full-blood Indian, he's a teacher, and you learn how to make it, and so he got him a leg, you know, and he got a workshop, you know. They said he's making them selling $15 a piece. So it's really not white people that did it. I think it's just a question of greed.
Yeah, right.
It's a question of greed. It doesn't make any difference whether it's white, Indian, or what. Anybody would do that and lose respect for it, you know. That's what he was talking about anyhow.
What kind of wood do you use to make flute?
I'm making it out of redwood more than anything else.
Redwood.
Redwood and northern cedars are two woods which I ordinarily use, but most of them, redwood is what I'm using.
Hey, does the shoemake make a good flute?
Yeah, shoemake make a good flute, but it's hard to find a good straight one too, you know. But of course you can do it, but I had one just for showpiece that I made, and it works. But you take a regular redwood, you know, and work it all out, and you make a beautiful sound out of those. Because like I said, every one of it's got a little different sound. Like its own little character. Its own little character. Every one of it's got its own little way.
I'd like some information on the freedmen.
Freedmen?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I know is after they, because a lot of this is not official, as I said, you know, myself. When they were released, that the Indians that had slaves seemed to have become a freedman. And then, of course, they were taken as a member of the tribe. Seemed like it could have been done by political thing, too, because they needed some votes and stuff like that. And so they used black people and put them in there. Of course, government went along, and I think Indians probably had something to do with it, too, the way it seemed like over a period of time. I used to blame government all the time, but I don't think government's the only one to blame, because they ought to blame, too, though. But then they became as part of an Indian tribe. And so if there is anything that comes to an Indian, they get it first. And Indians get it last. So Indian don't like it at all. He doesn't like it at all. But that's the way the law reads, and that's the way it goes. And I don't know, like this case that's coming up right now. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I heard they're going to, they claim that this case that they was talking about was way before, you know, they became freedmen. so it belongs to strictly Indians. But I understand they are saying differently. He said, if anything money coming to an Indian, he said, we got it coming. Under the Seminole freedmen. We got it coming, they say. So I keep hearing the Indians say, well, I think they're going to delay the whole thing. They're going to fight the case. And so I don't know really, but the freedmen, the only thing that's left out there is descendants of the freedmen, which still allows them to serve on the general council too. They got a black band.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they located, the black band?
I really don't know which one, where they're located around Seminole area. I used to know those, but I guess I kind of got away from politics for a long time, But yeah, there is a group there. But you know, back in the old days, they played a very important role among the Indians. You know, because they could speak both languages, English and the native language. So they became an interpreter. On the General Council, when they were there, they was able to speak up. Yeah.
What about the Scouts for the Army? Well, there was a group of Seminole Negro Scouts.
Well, I don't know anything about that part. Sometimes I wonder about it too.
Because a man in Texas did some research on them, did some writing about them.
Yeah.
Do you claim to be Seminole or Creek? What do you claim?
I claim to be Seminole there.
Seminole.
I'm 3/4 Seminole and 1/4 Creek, but I was only Creek because of my mother.
Yeah.
But I was raised in the Seminole Nation, Seminole people, and so when I growed up, naturally, the Creeks are my people too, actually, because of my mother's side as well as my father's side too, see, but the books were straight enough to just call it Seminole, see. But I had kinfolks in the Creek Nation from both sides, from my father's side as well as mother's side.
I've always heard there's not, I don't want to call it a feud between the Creeks and the Seminoles. And what was the basis of this? Where did this begin?
Sometimes I wonder, I talked about it once in a while, kind of privately too, but I know what people, Seminoles used to say about Creeks. Seminoles seem to have accepted this so-called new civilization came in quicker than the Seminoles. Because I know it happened because Seminoles always kind of set back, Because it has been said, I think it should be, I can imagine it's history too, that when I was in General Council, I found out the place so-called Seminole Nation over Seminole County and Pop County and part of that area, the Seminole Nation at one time. Okay, when they first brought them in here, they said the Seminoles, after they captured them, throw them in with the rest of them, brought into this country here. The government said, you're part Creek, so you just go as a Creek. So this is a Creek Nation, you're part of them. The so-called Seminoles moved on the west end of it and sat there, and they just won't deal with nobody. They said, we're Seminoles. We're not Creeks, we are Seminoles. They were so stubborn, the government come along and just draw a line. He said, this and from here on to this side would be known as Seminole Nation. After he doesn't give it to the Creeks. So I was on the Creek Council, I remember years ago, when we filed suit against the federal government for giving our land away. And I'm Seminole too. But it's all the political, legal things, And I like that. Projection piece, I was going to count with that. And we filed a suit against the federal government of Fort Jackson Flute. And these things, research we found that land was